Thank you for listening to Pathways and Passions. Remember, these conversations are meant to inspire, not replace professional guidance. Take care of your heart, stay curious, and keep walking your path with passion. Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to Pathways and Passions. And I'm your host, Marcia. Today, I have another wonderful person, a person that I truly, truly admire. He is the first person to have me on his podcast, and I want to welcome to Pathways and Passions, Sean Parker. Welcome, Sean.
Thanks for
Welcome.
having me. Thank you.
Most
Thank you. Glad to be
definitely.
here. Hmm.
So glad. I want to give you guys a little bit about Sean. Sean has an undergrad in business. He has a master's in human services and counseling. He is a former pastor. He is a high school dean at an inner city school in the city of Chicago. He is a former restaurant owner that I did not know, and president of Parker Brothers Delivery Company. Sean has authored two books. They are Unfinished Business, The Psychology of Becoming, and a recent book, A Well Dressed Lie. You guys got to get that book. Okay. Um, Following the breadcrumbs to an uncomfortable truth, Sean is currently the owner of Social Emotional Learning Academy, working on a doctorate in education and trauma informed practices. And Sean, look, that just fits you. It fits you. It
Yeah.
fits you. So I thank you and I thank the creator for allowing you to see your path and to continue to go down your pathway. Is there anything you want to say before we start?
No, other than thanks for having me. I look forward to being a part of your podcast today. So, been
Wonderful.
anticipating that. So, thanks for having me.
Most definitely. Now, you guys, if you have not seen Sean before, I want you to go to his page on Facebook, and I want you to follow him because he is such an intelligent black man and man, period. And I want you to follow him. I want you to listen to what he has to say. He is so knowledgeable. So, once again, I want to thank Sean for being here, and we're going to get back into this because this is going to be good. Um, at Pathways and Passions, we explore how emotional patterns, often unseen, shape the way we love, the way that we attach, the way that we protect ourselves. Today's conversation is about emotional regulation. How does it develop? How trauma disrupts it, and how our relationships often reveal what we haven't yet healed. But that's okay because we're all on a journey. And I love having these conversations because it gives you a little bit more to think about, a little bit more to understand, and a little bit more to act upon. So we're going to talk about emotional regulation and what it really is. So, Sean, when people hear the phrase emotional regulation, many think it means being controlled or suppressing your emotions. How do you define emotional regulation in a healthy sense?
Well, I think emotional regulation is about identifying the things that trigger you, that take you there, that may be influential in making you snap off, or as we say, get outside your body,
Yeah.
and creating some form of coping skill. Because since you know that this particular thing could set you off, you create a coping skill so that you're able to utilize that to remain balanced.
Okay.
So, if not, then, you become someone that is easy to manipulate.
Mm, easy to manipulate. I'm
Absolutely.
sure we'll get back into that. So is emotional regulation something that people have or don't have, or is it a developmental journey?
Well, a lot of people have. I think we all have it on some level. We may not have massaged it or
Mm,
utilized it on other platforms in our life, right? So
mm,
you must have some form of emotional regulation if you go to school every day.
right.
Because again, who feel like getting up in the morning going to school every day, right? Especially when it's cold like here in Chicago, it's freezing, snow out, right? So even from a kid, people get up every morning and go
Right.
to work. You know what I'm saying? Punch a clock, right? Emotionally, they don't, and they'll be there. Look, I'm not here today. Emotionally, I'm not here, but physically they show up, right?
Right.
So even though they may feel like staying in the bed or feel like doing something else, um, they regulate themselves and they control their emotions and they make intelligent, informed decisions. So the goal then becomes, how do I translate that across platforms? How do I be that way in my relationship as a son, as a father, as
Yeah.
an uncle, as a brother, as a sister, as a wife, as a parent? You know what I mean? So, but we have the capacity to do it. And if you look hard enough, you can find it.
Okay. What are some signs that someone is still learning emotional regulation, even if they appear functional or successful on the surface?
Well, if a person is really working towards, emotional stability and emotional regulation, then it would look similar to saying, okay, here go a situation that then popped out, right? And I got to address that situation, right? If I'm emotionally regulated, then I decide out of the litany of emotions that I can choose, anger, bitterness, frustration. There's so many emotions I can choose, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in this situation, I select the emotion that I'm going to use in this situation here, right?
Okay.
It is not reactive, it is proactive, right? And so if a person is able to do that and
Yeah.
do that before they move, then that's a person that is really working on their emotional regulation.
So how do we know how people disguise it? You know what I mean? So
Well,
we
it's
can
hard.
we yeah, go ahead.
No, it's hard to disguise your emotional regulation. I mean, you either got it and working on it, or you don't have it. And I'm just who I am. Everybody who they is. So why do I got to change to be who I am? You know what I'm saying? I'm not changing for nobody. Love me, like me, hate me. I don't care.
So
Right?
then, so then, talk about how that comes over and it spills over into how we relate with one another. Is that what we're after? That's not really what we're after,
Right.
right?
But if we don't know no better, it's hard to do better, right? So a
Yeah,
lot of times, there's a scripture in the Bible that say people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, right?
knowledge.
What you
Yes,
don't know can hurt you. The old colloquial saying, ignorance is bliss. No, it ain't
yes,
happy to be ignorant, right?
right,
It's good to be informed. And
right.
so what ends up happening is, we don't know. And people will identify and say, girl, you be tripping. Man, you just go right off. You didn't even let me finish saying what I'm trying to say, right? And so sometimes that emotional regulation becomes a defense mechanism. right? So if I don't want to hear something or something I feel like, you know what I'm saying, is off the wall, if I begin to display that in the beginning, perhaps you'll change your mind and you will come at me differently. Every behavior has a meaning. Ain't nobody doing nothing just to be doing it. No, because if you're doing that, the reason why you do or we do what we do, because we getting something out of it, you
Okay.
know. So it's hard if people are not focusing on growing, right? You have to focus on growth. My background was full of emotions and anger. I have 20 felony arrests, one theft, 2 counts of attempt murder, 4 counts of aggravated battery, and 13 counts of robbery. I blown on the block in the streets in Chicago, gang banging, going to jail, right? So in that environment, um, emotional regulations and popping off and not having that balance is something that is nourished, that is something to, you know, give you a position, within a negative group or negative organization. But as I began to make changes in
Okay.
my life, right?
Mhm.
And started going back to school because I didn't finish my freshman year, right? So I had to get a GED, then go to these colleges and universities and do all these things there. So emotionally, I felt incompetent, right? Because if I didn't finish my freshman year, how am I going to be in college? These people went all the way through 4 years of high school or whatever the case it is, right? But I had to
Right.
conquer that, right? I had to work through that and understand I can do anything I put my mind to.
I love that, Sean. Thank you so
Mhm.
much for sharing that with us. So when how do you recognize the change? Help somebody recognize the need for that change. If they have not, they haven't grown up with it, if they have not experienced it, how do you help someone recognize the need for that change? Because we know that that can go off and branch off into other kind of psychological issues. How do you help someone recognize the need for that change?
Well, a person is got to be feeling in some type of way like I'm tired of living like this,
Mhm.
right? I'm tired. I don't want to be. I know I got a reputation for this, but I don't really enjoy this. I don't. And sometimes when I act out like that and really go there, I sit back, and I feel bad about it. So if a person has at least a level of guilty conscience about how they may perform without really thinking and go in, then there's room for growth and there's room for change. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like my program that I put together when I was a dean in high school, when I came to the school, they told me, Mr. Parker, we had over 130 fights the
Mm.
previous year. So I said, okay, I took the job. My first year, it was 33 fights. My second year, it was 12 fights, right? So I understood that these kids, they would react and then think. They're not thinking first, right? It's somebody same way we do as adults. Somebody say, "What'd you say to me?" You don't know. We go right in right away, right? So
Right.
so what I did was, let's say one of the kids I had got, he went off on the teacher, cussed him out, cussed the teacher out, whatever like that. I get a call on the walkie-talkie. I got to go get this kid, right? And he's talking all the way back to the office, to my office and everything. And he like, man, I ain't taking none of that, man. Man, F that teacher, man. He'll be coming at me, out the bam. So I was like, yeah, I understand what you're saying. I mean, the way you handle it, that was a way of handling it. But I wonder if you could have handled it a different way and still got what you needed to get out of that engagement, right? So I started doing groups with these kids in school, therapy groups. You in school suspension and stuff. When we ain't sitting up on no phone, going to sleep. No, I did groups with them and taught them and helped them develop coping skills, right? And so they rather be in school suspension than to be sent home. And the parents gonna always opt in for in school suspension, right? So so that's how I began to work with the kids and help them understand. Now, they were in a controlled environment. A lot of us, adults, parent, watching your podcast or whatever, it may not necessarily be in those environments, but they must first become, and as a result of that, they must first have the desire. They have to have a desire. I don't want to live like this no more. I don't want to be known for that anymore. And I
Yes.
feel like it's hurting my relationships, it's hurting my opportunities at the job, it's doing all kind of different things. And but if we're not, if there's not first a willing mind, or an openness to consider or reconsider, then no change is going to happen. We're going to keep it rolling the same way we've been rolling.
So when we look at relationships then between men and women, give us some examples of emotional regulation in those areas.
I mean, if a couple is emotionally regulated, when hot topics come up,
Mhm.
they will be able to approach those hot topics without taking everything personal. So let's just start at a rudimentary level, right? There are three kinds of conversations, I say, right? I say there's a red light, a green light, and a yellow light conversation, right?
Okay.
Now, a a green light conversation is a conversation that couples can talk about and they never get into it about it. It might be some vacation place, it might be a home, a beautiful home, it might be a movie, it might be a song or music, but they never get into no argument about that. Those are safe conversations, right? But then they are yellow light conversations because can't nobody have this green light all the time, right? Kool-Aid ain't coming out the water fountain. I'm
That's
sorry, right? So so then there's a yellow light conversation. Again, a necessary conversation. But if you're going to have this yellow light conversation, you're going to have to proceed with caution, right? And then because it can translate into a red light conversation, right? A red light conversation means, all right, here we go. Because every time we talk about this, we already know what it is, right? We finna argue. We finna get into it, right? Now, that red light conversation is very important to have, but you cannot have a difficult, tenseful red light conversation in a red light moment. You must wait until there's green light time in the relationship. Hey, baby, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing all right. How you doing? Okay. Are you sure everything fine? No, 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 nothing. No, no. So there's no defense up, right? Because when
that's
we
right.
going back and forth, we defense. You hit me, I'm hitting you back, right? Ain't
That's
no,
right.
you know. So so then what happens is in that green light moment, say, hey, baby, I know you love me and I love you. I just want to share this with you. We ain't got to talk about it right now. We talk about this later. I just wanted to give it to you, and just, mull over and think about it and we'll have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is, when you call me out my name, when you upset and everything like that, it really makes me feel like this, and this. And I know that ain't what you want me to feel like, but we don't have to talk about it. I just want you to just give some thought to it, right? And walk away, right? Leave that conversation alone. Give that person an opportunity to mull over it. You know what I mean? So, so in that way, whenever another conversation comes up, it takes practice don't make perfect. It's never going to be perfect. But what
That's right.
practice do is it makes permanent. All right. So if you continually to focus on that approach and everything like that, you're gonna get more out of it. right? But if you don't, then the communication will be all over everywhere. And here's how you know you have poor regulation, because you got poor communication. You start off arguing about or talking about something, and before the conversation is over, you didn't argue about 5, 6, 10, 15 different things and never resolved what the initial thing was, right?
Right.
Babe,
Right.
I thought I told you that you said you was gonna take out the garbage, and this kitchen is stinking. I gotta cook and all this, and I don't like how your mama talked to me. Okay, garbage, and my mama talking to you. What is that? There's just unresolved things that never really
Right.
get addressed.
Right.
So when you don't have emotional regulation, you're great at starting things, but you're poor in finishing and completing things. You
Mm-hmm.
know.
I like what you said about having a permanent way of at least looking at an issue, right?
Hmm.
Because we know that there are best practices, and that's a best practice in a relationship. To
Hmm.
be able to speak to your person, you don't go into a relationship even like that, or you shouldn't go into a relationship like that, right? Because that's a red flag up front. And I always say we teach people how to treat us. So if
Hmm.
we know how to communicate, and I know people get tired of hearing that. We just got to communicate. We just got to communicate. But there's a certain way that we have to communicate. There's a certain way that we have to, as you say, regulate our emotions so that we don't get out of control. You don't go into a relationship thinking that this is going to be the worst person in the world. You get those vibes, you loving on each other, you like that person, and then you want to be in a relationship with that person, and then somewhere something happens because we can't stay there all of the time if we don't have those skills, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, but they have to be learned. So if
Yeah.
I growing up and all I see is adults going off, cursing each other out,
Mhm.
and dogging each other out and everything like that, that's my okay. That's must be how life is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
don't let nobody run over you. Don't let nobody just say whatever they want to say, or don't let anybody just you're not finna, again, because somebody smell blood in the water, then you know what? We finna take advantage of this situation, right?
Hmm.
So those are if we're in those kind of environments, we're gonna always live on the defensive. You know what I'm saying? And so, we have to be trained. We have to look and see the value in that, right? Because when you're able to keep a calm and cool head, then you that means you're regulating your emotions, right? Somebody cut in front of you in the car, you driving, you know what I'm saying, and you cursing and like, hey, I don't know how to drive and upset and all this road rage, last year, it ain't been a year. Right down the street, school, friend of my friend and family, whatever the case, their boy graduated from high school, and a couple of the guys, they were on their way to Great America here in the Illinois area, in big amusement park, and so they on their way, and they're driving, right? No, no, all seniors, no background, and none of this. They on their way, and a car um, gets upset because they weren't going fast enough, and what they did was like threw their hands up, like, what, it's traffic out here, you know what I'm saying? So the guy ends up upping a gun and just spraying the car, shot the boy in the back of his head and in his shoulder, and another kid in the arm, and whatever the case it is. I mean, the kid is all right. That got shot in the head, Thankfully, he's working and, going to junior college and everything. But again, it's just that I don't have that emotional regulation, right? So it could be somebody that don't know how to drive. It could be somebody that tried to do it on purpose. Or it could be somebody that has a pregnant woman in the car and they trying to hurry up and get to the emergency room,
Hmm.
right? But we don't give time for that. We feel first. Then we react. We're not finna think and come up with other ways. There are 9 ways. It's when you're emotionally regulated. There are 9 ways to look at a situation.
Hmm.
Because we lazy, right? And we feel like I ain't got time for all that, right? We either look at it as good or bad, right? So we don't look at other probabilities, right? Like math and heuristics and math and all these different things. Sometimes in order for you to understand the problem, you have to work from the answer
Hmm.
and then come up with the equation, right?
Right.
So, like a diamond has 9 facets to it. So, perhaps that is a way. Just like I told the young man in school, I said, you know what? There was a way of handling it, right? But look, let me give you another way you could have handled that situation, and another way you could have handled that situation, and you would have still been in class. Your mother wouldn't have had to been called, and you wouldn't have to be in school suspension for the next 3 days.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and just quick thing, just talking about this, I didn't know we were gonna talk about it, but I was up at, we got a beautiful lakefront here in Chicago, and Black Association, they got all these boats and yachts. I got friends and
Yeah.
stuff like that. You go over
Yeah.
there, hang out, listen to music, and all of that. So I'm parking my car in one of the parking spaces run by the city, and a guy pulled up behind me, and before I could get it really straight and got out, he said, "Mr. Parker." I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" He said, "Oh, you don't remember me, huh?" I'm like, "No." He was one of the students that was in trouble, you know what I'm saying, a lot in the
Okay.
school. He like,
Yes.
"Man, you saved my life." He like,
Woo.
"Man, I got this job." He took down my license plate number. He said, "Look, don't worry about it. You ain't got to put no money in there. You ain't never got to pay for no parking tickets, right?"
Ooh.
So it's a benefit. And when people see that, man, you know what? I did handle that situation differently. I did handle that situation. It becomes a motivation to
Yeah.
continue and explore those options.
Yeah. Because to be, um, we all want to be known not as a hothead, not as someone who has issues, but we all want peace. We all want love. And I think that when we show people that it can be different, who have maybe not been in that situation before, they feel that. I know working at the school in Chicago, the high schools in Chicago, um, kids feel that. They feel when you love them. They feel when you care about them,
Yeah.
and they begin to trust you. And then they see who you are and that you're not walking two different pathways, but you walk in that pathway um, towards helping them have a good life. They see that, they feel that, and I believe that um, one of the reasons that I do the work that I do is because I believe that if children feel that and they grow up and they feel that and they know how to, as you say, regulate their emotions, they know how to make friendships, they know how to have relationships, then that comes out of the home, it goes into the community, it goes into their careers, it goes into when they have their own family, and then we make better communities and make this world a little bit better. And people think sometimes that I'm grandiose in my thoughts, but that's okay because I take care of where I am, the world that I live in, the little community that I can actually influence to do a little bit better. So yeah, I appreciate you,
Yeah.
Sean.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I mean, it all deals on the context a person is in. If
Yes.
you if you if you on the block, right? I mean, having emotional regulation is not a premium, right? Because you out there and in the street. I mean, there's no code, right? It ain't no. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we out
Okay.
here, we outside. So in that kind of environment right there, you know, having emotional regulation and having a good temperament and not responding to everything that happens in a big way,
Hmm.
that may seem to some people, oh, he's soft, she's soft, they weak, you know what I'm saying? But again, you vibrating low. You vibrate low when you in low vibrational environments.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? But you go in the office and you talking crazy and cussing out, and you know what I'm saying, and letting yourself, go in there, and then you turn around and we're gonna have to let you go. We sorry, but
Right.
you can't work here no more.
Right.
You're done. Get your stuff
Right.
right now, right? So it becomes something difficult, in those kind of contexts. And if everybody that you hanging around with, that you associate with, that's how they
Yeah.
move, then you're gonna get in where you fit in. You know what I mean? But ultimately, if your goal is to have a good relationship with a mate, or a good relationship on the job, excuse me, with a supervisor, or
Yes.
other things like that, is advantageous for you to reconsider. Anybody can go off. You know what
Right.
I mean? And so, and that's the thing, especially with our culture. Not that other cultures are not emotional, and not
Hmm.
that other cultures don't have feelings and all these different other things, but we kind of got emotions on steroids, right? We on a whole nother level. And I think I was sharing with you once that when you just look at the vibration of what's happening and what's going on prior to hip hop and all this, you know what I'm saying, music, we had R&B. When
Right.
we had R&B, rhythm and blues, we didn't have all these drive-bys,
That's
right?
right.
We didn't have all these carjackings like this. I mean, it was just a different vibration.
Yes.
Music influences emotional regulation. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying? So when
Yeah.
hip hop come out and we don't care, and I push your head back, I slide, I this
Right.
that, you know what I'm saying? It's all
Right.
gangster. What are you talking about? Keep it gangster, right?
Right.
So that right there changes the whole scope of what's going on, and it makes it difficult, for them to really think before they act, because
Yeah.
it's not about thinking, it's about putting in work, it's about acting. So, you
Yeah.
know.
I can remember with my daughters when they were teenagers and they would bring some of that stuff into the house
Mhm.
and I get my hands on it. And I can remember just crushing them bad boy CDs,
Mhm.
breaking them up. And they were like, Mom, what are you
You
doing? And
do
I'm
it
like,
right.
not here, not in this house. You're not going to listen to this stuff. You may listen to it somewhere else because I'm not naive to think that you're not going to be in other places. You may listen uh, to this music somewhere else. You may even see these videos because when they were coming up, the women didn't have on clothes like now. You know, you may see sexually explicit things, but you're not going to see them here. And when we are able to have conversations, because my daughters used to come in and lay on my bed after school, and we'd have conversations and we'd get things figured out together. Not a naive person at all, but there are some things that our kids do not need to hear, our kids do not need to see. And look, as adults, there's some things I don't let into my brain, I do not let into my psyche, because that is not the type of life that I want to live. But as you say, that's reality. And until someone feels on the inside that, look, I want to live, I got to make a change, and I got to go and seek someone to help me to make that change if I can't do that by myself. And so I'm glad a lot of them came to seek you, Sean.
Yeah. Yeah, therapy, therapy, being able to move what's going on in here and here out
Hmm.
there without having bodies everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
it's necessary to move those things in.
Yes.
Because if not, if you try to suppress in everything, it's equivalent to shelving, right? You got a shelf in your pantry and your over your sink or whatever. You keep putting them cans up there, and you like, you know what? I ain't gonna even go there. And you keep shelving and shelving and shelving. Put that next can, it's bodies everywhere. Everything is
Right.
all, you know what I'm saying? And then people like, where's all this coming from? Where's all this coming? Because you've been holding hostage how you truly feel. So it's important to communicate and to get it out. You know what I'm saying? But in a constructive way.
Yes.
That's why sometimes you're gonna go there, don't even talk to the person. Write them a letter.
There
You
you
know what I'm
go.
saying? Because
Yes.
you already know. Just write it down and send it, mail it to them. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
and that way you can feel like you being heard because 9 times out of 10, they're gonna read the whole letter.
Yes.
You get to start talking to people. You trying to make points. They ain't hearing nothing you saying. Just as you thinking, they thinking
That's
about a
right.
response. It's like you going
That's
back and
right.
forth. So you're not getting nothing accomplished. You're not
Right.
getting anything done. So
Right.
so so and then people get frustrated. They leave relationships. They leave marriage. You know what? I'm through talking about this. I've been saying this over and over and over again, but you don't listen. You're not hearing
Right.
me, right?
Right.
So it just kind of goes down that road. And with men, we already a little slow right off the bat, right? Because women, in order to have a woman, you must have two X chromosomes. You can't. I'm a man. I got an X chromosome, but I also got a Y
Right.
chromosome.
Hmm.
And that Y chromosome gives me the ability to reproduce. But also, that Y chromosome is missing like 96 genes that's on a typical X chromosome. So
Hmm.
it don't have as many genes. And y'all can Google it and do whatever and see how many
Right.
genes. It's not there. That's why we kind of lack a little emotional intelligence when it come down in terms of expressing and talking and mulling over our feelings and everything. So now we still in the womb. This before we even come out and get affected by the community, the school, the
Right.
family, and all this other stuff that's gonna be pouring all kind of
History.
stuff in it. Right. All this stuff
Yeah.
gonna be coming at us, right? So
Yeah.
and then on top of that, so we a little slow, and then we got ego, right?
Hmm.
And ego is you can't tell me nothing. What you talking about, right? It's pride, right? And
Yes.
then on top of that, we got testosterone, which is
Yes.
nothing but energy, right?
Yes.
So all of this, even before we are birthed into life,
Hmm.
right? So again, here our parents don't understand this and know,
Right.
okay, I have a male child. I know that there is not enough genes as it would be in terms of that,
Hmm.
and then start building things around that, knowing that those deficits are there. So boys are born at a 0.
Hmm.
Women are born at least a 1 or higher. Like
Hmm.
we say, to provide and protect. That's masculine. No, that's feminine. What you mean
Hmm.
that's feminine? What I mean is when we were in our mother's womb, she provided us 3 things: water, oxygen, and food, right?
Hmm.
Provide and protect. So she provided, right? Plus we were protected while we was in the abdomen,
Right.
right?
Yes.
So women don't have to learn how to provide and protect. It come natural to them.
Hmm.
Men, we can do it, but we have to learn how to provide and protect. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So our emotional regulation is going to be a little different in
Mm,
that kind of sense because we always in competition with each other. Men are always competing against each other. We're competing for what? We're competing for women. You
mm,
know what I'm saying? So we're competing to be the man. Man, check out my ride, man. Hey man, check out my girl, man. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? How you like these diamonds? You know what I'm saying?
mm,
Look at my trophy. We in competition all the time. And when you're like that, then you can't afford to be vulnerable, right? You can't afford to do that because if I show my soft side or if I show that, then you're gonna take advantage of me because we in competition. All fair, love and war, right? So there's a lot of things. So that's why a lot of men are really suffering in silence. You know what
mm-hmm,
I'm saying? We don't talk and we don't cry with each other. Right?
mm,
What's up? Oh, I'm good. How you doing? What's up with you, homie? Oh, everything cool. What's up? We handshake,
mm,
hug each other. You know what I'm saying? And we'll never say, man, I feel lonely. I
mm,
feel like don't nobody love me. I feel like I don't have a sense of value, right? And everything. Women can talk among each other, cry, have a good cry thing and all that and get all that stuff out. No, we stuck like Chuck with that, right? Because
mm.
again, we live on the defensive. And so it's kind of difficult. And so men can move beyond that. I'm a man.
Okay.
I've moved beyond that, right?
All right.
But it's
I
taken
don't
work.
have to ask you any questions. You just go. I
Ah,
love
I'm
it. I
sorry. All
love
right,
it.
all
I've
right, all right,
always
all right.
loved
Go,
it.
go. Let me slow down.
I love it. No, you don't have to slow down. You do
Mm-mm,
your thing. I love this
mm,
discussion. I love it because I have a 14-year-old grandson. You
mm,
know, his dad is not um, around him. He doesn't live in the same state. I wish that my grandson had the security of having a male um, in his life who could teach him these things because it's different when it comes from women. He lives in a house with three women, you know, his mom, his granny, and his auntie. And although we can
mm,
teach
mm-hmm,
and we do teach him about becoming a man of character,
mm-hmm.
it's not the same. It's not the same, but it
Mm-mm.
is what it is, and
Right?
we're not giving up,
No, no, they
you
got
know.
all kind of, you
So
can get him in programs, where
yeah,
he can have a mentor and everything
yeah,
like that.
we have to
And
talk about that offline because
yeah,
we tried that,
oh,
and
okay.
this is a national organization that
Mm-hmm,
I went to. I wasn't even supposed to be at the meeting, but I was knocking down the door. We
mm-hmm,
tried that. He
yeah.
had a mentor for 5 activities,
Mm,
and it was supposed to be year long, and then they
mm,
just disappeared.
yeah.
But we're not giving up.
No, no,
No,
no,
we're
no.
not giving up. But I was
Mm-mm,
just saying because of what you were saying. If our young men had men that they could go to, that they could be around, that could help them understand why it's so important to regulate your emotions. Because what we've told him is that, you're out, if you're away from us, uh, he had some challenges at one point. Every now and then, we all have issues,
mm-hmm,
but at one point, we had to tell him, "Look, if you out there in those streets and you're a young black man, you gonna have some issues if you act the way that you act in certain situations here. That's why we cannot let you go to certain places. You know what I mean?
yeah, I
So it's
understand. I
you know,
understand.
it's
What
it's
about what about
um
it? He's probably not interested in any sports, right?
he is, and so we are going to place him into
Mm-hmm.
basketball camp.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah, that
good
thing.
because yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and that's a male, and
yeah,
he gonna learn teamwork, and he
yeah.
gonna have to learn patience, right? And you know, and he may not start every game or get in every game, and gonna have to sit
Yes.
with that and understand. So there's a lot of dynamics that comes along, even in involving kids in sports. You
Hmm.
know, to get
And
that,
he's
you know, but
blessed. His
yeah.
mom has him in private school, and
Hmm.
it's the best place for him because he
Hmm.
does have a teacher who
Yeah.
cares for him. You know,
Right.
not all of everyone has all
Right.
that, you know.
Right.
And so I
Absolutely.
appreciate you bringing up about now I am going to go and look up everything that you said because I
Yes.
like to
Yes.
learn.
Yeah.
But I
Hmm.
know that I know that there's always this contention between men and women that is brought up, and I just I like to teach people how to do what we're talking about so that they can have the successful relationships. And
Absolutely.
I deny that it cannot happen. It
Hmm.
can happen, just as you said. It
Hmm.
can happen.
It
People,
can happen. You know what I'm saying? So it takes work, but it's good work. You
yes,
know, and again, they, you know, when a couple sets down rules and that we're not gonna be having difficult conversations when we are upset,
yes,
because we've done it in the past. You know, they can sit down and talk. I mean, we've been having conversations whole time we've been together, and we've been going back and forth. What do we got to show for that at this present time? Baby, do you feel like we got something to show for that? No, I don't see the benefit, right? And I don't either, right? So if we keep doing what we're doing, we're gonna keep getting what we've been getting. So
yes,
let's do this, because whatever we feel and we think it's important and we need to
yes,
talk about it, right? But let's catch moments when we're not on the defensive with each other. You know
yes,
what I'm saying? And if you feel like it's getting there, just write it down. We'll have a pad, you know, pencil pad, so that we can always come back to that. You didn't get a chance to say this. I didn't get a chance to, you know what I'm saying? And write it down. This is
right,
teaching discipline.
yes,
That's what love really is. See,
yes,
love is discipline, right? It's not the feelings, it's not all
that's
these
right,
emotions and all that, because it
that's
can't
right,
be. Because if that's the case, emotions change all the time. I feel like getting high, I don't feel like going to work, I feel like knocking somebody out. You know, I mean, we feel happy, we feel sad, we feel lonely, we feel devastated, we feel anxiety. You can't, love can't be, it'll be unstable in all its ways. So
yeah,
love is not about feeling any emotions, right?
yeah,
It's about discipline, right? So
yeah,
so so we, I think we kind of got it twisted a little bit. And the longer life goes on, the more information and knowledgeable people become.
yes,
Well, like my cousin was doing, you know, he's a pastor, and one of his members' daughter was getting married at another church, and it was a big one of his big members, so he, you know, he had to go, you know, and he goes to the funeral, I mean, to the wedding, and he tells me, he's like, Sean, you ain't gonna believe this. I'm like, what? He said, when the pastor said to the young lady to repeat after me, for better or for worse, she said, for better or for better. He started laughing, you know, pastor laughing. No, daughter, that's not it. It's for better or for worse. She said for better or for better. She never would move off of that, right? And they still ended up getting married. But what does that mean? That means, look, I don't know what worse look like. I'm not finna, look, you're not gonna be able to do anything and everything you want to do, and I'm gonna be okay with it. It's just not finna happen. So I'm not finna lie in front of all these people, God, or whatever you want to say. I'm not finna get up there. I got boundaries. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? So,
yeah.
so, you know, you know,
And boundaries are to help people understand how to love you.
hmm
It's
yeah,
it's boundaries are not a bad thing. As I
no, it's a good
said,
thing.
we teach people how to treat us. And
Hmm.
what we do, Rodney and I developed the Healthy Pathways to Love model. And
Hmm.
in that model, what we tell people to do is you must speak with each other on a
Hmm.
quarterly basis, at least once a year, you have to have some type of discipline, as you said, to have
Hmm.
those hard conversations
Absolutely.
and to
On a
be
weekly
able to,
basis.
yeah,
Yeah.
to, if it's needed, most
Right. Right.
definitely,
No,
to
whether it's
move
needed or not,
to
on a
move in
weekly.
the same
Yep.
direction,
Hmm.
right? You have
Got
to
to.
set goals. You have to have the same vision.
Yep. Absolutely. You
And
got to stay current. And so part of staying current in a relationship is at least meeting once a week just for check-in purposes. How you feel is going, baby? Am I missing anything? You know what I'm saying? Let's check in and make sure we on the right page and this, that, and other. Anything happen that kind of rubbed you the wrong way that we didn't get a chance to, you know what I'm saying? And that way you stay current with your mate. You do those check-ins like that, and you just make it a part of life. And that way, nothing gets a time to build. Nothing gets the time to grow out of control. Now, ain't nothing we can do but let it go,
yeah,
right? Walk
yeah,
away from it. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah,
it's important to do that.
yeah.
And
We're
children seeing that, and your children seeing those meetings like that, and
yes,
seeing how you guys come together and talk and everything like that. Hey, because at points of
yes,
time, you bring them in too. You know what
yes,
I'm saying? And have that family
yes,
meeting and everything. So you don't be surprised. The thing is, the problem is women think men think like them, and men think women think like us. And we can be so further from the truth than that. We do not think alike at all. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, do
Venus
you
and
want to talk
Mars,
about
and
right?
then what you were saying earlier.
Yeah. We
Hmm.
just we don't value the same things, right? And not that we don't, there are certain things here, certain things there that we won't look at in the same way and say, yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's my favorite meal, or there's different things along those lines. But in terms of thinking, in terms of how relationships are to move, and how you are to negotiate and work through and navigate these barriers and all of those different other things like that. I was talking to a guy, and we was on a trip, and he was like, I'm like, so what do you think females really want, and he go, oh, they want an alpha male, they want a man to take charge, they want a man that got the bag. I said, well, that could have its place, but more important than that is they want somebody that would listen, somebody that would understand, somebody that would learn how to work together, right? Man,
Yes,
no, that ain't. I said, I tell you what, call your girl right now. And we was traveling. He called on the phone. And when he called, I said, hey, so and so, so and so. Yeah. I said, it's Sean. You know what? What did you say that the most important thing in a relationship for you? And I went through the thing, being understanding, listening, and everything.
mhm,
Yes, number one to me. I said, that's good. We don't want to talk no more. All right, and she got off the phone, right? And then
yeah,
I say it to the guy. I said, so you see what I mean, ain't nobody want to talk about that, man. Ain't nobody want to talk about that. You see what I'm saying? So
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. So it becomes something different. But if we understand that we do think alike, and difference are not something to keep us apart, difference are
No,
things to be celebrated, right?
and to help us grow, you know,
Absolutely.
yeah, to
Absolutely.
help us grow.
Hmm.
I knew that this conversation was going to go long. I didn't, so we didn't get to half of the questions I had for you, Sean. So I'm going to ask you at some point to come back so that we can finish the rest of my questions. Because as I said, I like to know things, and
Absolutely.
I am
Absolutely.
not a man, and
Hmm.
I love to hear men who understand men.
Hmm.
And I just think that those conversations, we're going to be in a forum together in April, and I think that those kinds of conversations are needed. But I
Hmm.
think that the most important thing that I got from you tonight, that I am so in agreement with, two things.
Mhm.
One, we have to regulate our emotions even
Mhm.
before we get to the step of number two, being able to communicate with one another.
Mhm.
Um, it happens in society, in different cultures, different ways, but it has to happen. And having those difficult conversations with emotional regulation is so important. If there was one thing that you wanted the audience to know about relationships, about emotional regulation, what would that one thing be?
Don't expect too much from others and don't put nothing past anybody. All
Mm,
right. That way, you won't be surprised
mm,
by people's behavior, right? Because sometimes the only thing predictable about people is that they're unpredictable, right?
mm.
So, yeah, don't, you know, that's what I would say. Don't expect too much from others. Hard to get disappointed when you don't expect too much from others and you don't put nothing past anybody.
But you can be surprised when it happens and
That's
say,
right.
oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
wonderful.
But I'm glad it's almost like we say you lending people money and you know how it be. You don't expect it to come back. But if it come back, now you ain't gonna turn it down, but if it don't, now you disappointed. Now you mad, right? Or maybe you've done that, so now that person can't never borrow no money from you no more. So you good. That's all right. Now I ain't got to worry about them coming back no more, right?
That's your boundary.
There you go.
Sean, thank you so much.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
I appreciate you.
Bye bye.